For countless millennia, deep beneath the silent dunes of the desolate world Velvar, lay a relic far older than the stars themselves. It was shielded by time, forgotten by civilizations, guarding a secret so profound that even the most ancient alien races dared not whisper its name. In the heart of a colossal black pyramid, encased within an impenetrable chamber of pure energy and hardened steel, rested a scepter of living metal. It shimmered with an inner light, pulsing faintly like a distant heartbeat, a paradox of power and stillness, utterly refusing the touch of any living being. Many had tried to claim it. First, the Sarnak warlords descended with their vast armies and mighty war machines, convinced sheer force could bend the scepter to their will. They were met not with resistance, but with a silent, invisible wave of rejection that tore them apart, crushing their bones and flinging their shattered bodies into the cold void of space. The scepter remained, almost in slumber. Then came the scholars of the Zuron dynasty, whispering of prophecies and lost species, theorizing the scepter awaited a specific genetic signature. They cloned hundreds of genetic variations from every known race across the cosmos, presenting them to the ancient artifact. Yet the scepter stayed cold, silent, and utterly inert. The legend of the choosing scepter grew, intertwined with an ancient prophecy etched in forgotten tongues. The true flame shall grasp the rod of silence. The one who should not be, shall be. Most dismissed it as myth, a few deemed it madness. No one dared approach again after the last attempt, a catastrophic energy discharge that obliterated half a moon, a supernova in miniature. And so the scepter remained isolated, feared, and gradually it slipped into the forgotten pages of galactic history. Until a human arrived. By all accounts, he was nothing special. Not a decorated general, nor a renowned pilot. He was no brilliant scientist, nor a master of alien diplomacy. He was simply Jackson Riley, an explorer, a cog in a deep space salvage crew, sifting through the galaxy's forgotten corners for discarded technology to sell or trade. But destiny, or perhaps something far more profound, guided his battered ship, systems sputtering and fuel low, directly into Velvar's forbidden zone. He landed, saw the pyramid, and curiosity, a very human trait, pulled him inside. No alarms blared, no ancient guardians rose, no sensors cried out. No one had ever expected a human to even reach this place, let alone survive entry. Jackson moved with a cautious tread, his flashlight beam cutting through the alien gloom. His steps echoed eerily on metallic floors as his eyes widened at walls adorned with glowing symbols and ancient murals. They depicted strange armored figures battling monstrous shadows with razor claws and gaping, empty mouths. He didn't grasp their meaning. Frankly, he didn't care. He just saw ancient tech. Then, in the grand chamber's heart, resting on a stark black pedestal floating above a shimmering pool of light, was the scepter. It stood tall and elegant, its surface shifting between liquid silver and deep chrome, an almost imperceptible pulse emanating from its core. Something inside Jackson froze, not fear, not excitement, but a profound stillness, a whisper in his very bones. He took another step forward, and the scepter moved. A tendril of pure, living energy, like quicksilver light, slowly extended towards him, not menacingly, but with a curious, almost sentient grace. Jackson blinked, his hand rising instinctively. He touched it. There was no explosion, no agonizing scream. Instead, a torrent of warm, familiar energy surged from the scepter, flowing into his hand, up his arm, and flooding his entire being. He gasped, not from pain, but from the sheer, breathtaking intensity. His senses exploded. He saw with crystalline clarity, thought with lightning speed, and felt an incredible, latent power awaken within him. His mind expanded, instantly connected to an immense repository of knowledge. He could feel the scepter vibrating gently in his palm, a conscious entity, thinking, watching, listening. Then a single word resonated deep within his mind, a foreign language yet perfectly understood: accepted. Across the vast reaches of the galaxy, dozens of long-dormant hidden sensors flared to life. Alarms screamed across ancient satellites orbiting Velvar. In a dimly lit corner of the Galactic Senate, where thousands of alien leaders engaged in endless debates, a solitary red light began to blink, a light that had remained dark for 6 millennia. The message was unmistakable. The scepter is chosen. Panic erupted. Emergency sessions were called. Questions flew like rapid-fire volleys. Who is the wielder? What species? How is this possible? And when the answer finally echoed through the chamber, human, a shocked silence fell, swiftly followed by a cacophony of laughter and furious arguments. Some scoffed, dismissing it as a crude hoax. Others saw it as an immediate threat. But one ancient, cold being, the venerable Talroth Prime, slowly rose. His voice, a low rumble, sent shivers down the spines of even the most hardened warriors. If the scepter has truly chosen a human, then the great silence approaches once more. And this time we are utterly unprepared. The silent awakening. As Jackson Riley stepped out of the dark pyramid, the very sky above Velvar seemed to shift, the distant stars appearing to gaze down upon him. Though the air was still in the ancient ruins silent, a strange, almost palpable pressure now permeated the atmosphere, as if the entire world had stirred from a profound slumber, its ancient eyes focused on his next move. The scepter in his hand, no longer merely an object but a living extension of himself, pulsed softly, a rhythmic beat mirroring his own heart beneath the smooth, foreign metal. He tried to contact his ship's communicator, but before he could utter a sound, a new voice resonated directly within his mind. It wasn't his own nor any human language, but a calm, deep, and infinitely patient presence. It informed him that all outside communications were now blocked, not due to malfunction, but by design. The scepter had taken absolute control of his immediate environment, not out of fear, but from a primordial instinct for protection, a shield against an unseen tempest brewing on the horizon. Jackson, his mind a whirlwind of confusion, slowly ascended toward his ship, each step resonating with an unfamiliar power. His rational mind screamed for panic, urged him to shed this alien artifact. Yet a profound whisper from deep within, a voice that felt intrinsically linked to the scepter, told him to remain. This scepter wasn't trapping him, it was choosing him, guiding him towards becoming something more, something beyond human. This bizarre realization filled him with an unsettling blend of dread and newfound confidence. Light years away, at the heart of the galactic core, a diverse council of alien intelligences, some corporeal, some digital, others amorphous clouds of pure energy, watched the relentless red signal on their ancient display. When the message reiterated that the scepter had been claimed by a human, many scoffed, dismissing it as a trick, a system error, or a deceptive ploy by humanity. But deep down, even the most cynical among them knew the stark truth. There was only one scepter of its kind, and it had never in over 50,000 years yielded to anyone. One council member, a towering insectoid creature named Falor, slammed a clawed hand onto the table, demanding an immediate, decisive response. He roared that if the scepter had chosen a human, then what was coming was not just on its way, it was already here. For the scepter served no empire, protected no nation. Its sole purpose was to awaken the final defense of the Ancient Ones. Its activation now meant something worse than any war was already upon them. Jackson's ship hummed to life as he approached, its ramp automatically extending. Inside, he braced himself for familiarity, but was met instead with alien complexity. Every screen, every console, even the navigation controls, now blazed with unfamiliar symbols and cryptic data. Yet inexplicably, he understood it all perfectly, as if the scepter was translating the arcane language directly into his very thoughts, granting him access to knowledge he had no right to possess. The scepter's calm, mental voice echoed, warning him that time was perilously short. It began to unveil its origin, crafted eons ago, not by any living species, but by beings who had faced an unspeakable horror from beyond the known universe. A force of cold, silent, unstoppable obliteration. This entity didn't conquer planets, it erased them entirely, not for power, but simply to clear the living canvas of the cosmos. Once sealed beyond the galactic barrier, that chilling force was now stirring once more. The scepter, he learned, was not merely a weapon, it was a key, a signal, a beacon. And now, through his unexpected touch, the galaxy would know the final cycle had begun. The full weight of this revelation didn't immediately sink in. But then he looked out the viewport. Three sleek alien cruisers, previously absent, now materialized in orbit, silent and predatory. He knew instantly someone had witnessed his awakening. They were coming for him. Not to negotiate, not to understand, but to kill or, far worse, to capture him before he could fully grasp the Scepter's true power. His ship shuddered, warning lights flashing. The Scepter reacted with blistering speed, instantly linking with the ship's weapon systems, bolstering its shields, and even overriding the controls to engage a hitherto unknown engine drive. When activated, this drive tore the ship into hyperspace with a shriek of raw power so intense it cracked the very mountains beneath him. In that blinding flash, Jackson Riley vanished from Velvar. But the signal had been sent. The news had spread. A human had bonded with the Scepter of Ages. It was no longer a secret. It was a fear, a chilling whisper, a prophecy now returning to life. Across 1,000 star systems, ancient enemies stirred. Strange alliances formed in the deepest shadows. Forgotten weapons were unearthed from lunar crypts. The name of the Scepter now haunted the minds of leaders, generals, and cosmic abominations alike. Some yearned to destroy the human. Others craved to exploit him. But all agreed on one terrifying truth. If the Scepter had truly chosen, then nothing would ever be the same. And in the abyssal darkness between galaxies, something truly ancient moved. It felt the Scepter awaken. It remembered the war, and it was coming back. His ship drifted through the profound quiet of deep space, far from any star or planet, enveloped by a darkness so absolute that even the sensors registered nothing. Yet within the ship, Jackson Riley sat in the pilot's seat, his gaze fixed on the glowing panels, his thoughts a chaotic storm. He had escaped the alien warships on Velvar, yes, but a cold certainty gnawed at him. This was far from over. And the Scepter, now fused with him, a part of his very being, ensured he would not forget the titanic struggle that had just begun. He hadn't slept since leaving Velvar, not out of choice, but because the Scepter wouldn't permit it. It relentlessly streamed visions into his mind, ancient battles of unimaginable scale, flashes of creatures so vast they eclipsed suns, and fleets so immense they made galaxies appear tiny. He couldn't discern if these visions were memories or warnings, but he felt the profound, chilling fear embedded within each one, a deep primal terror lingering even within this immensely powerful artifact, as if it, too, remembered pain and defeat. Suddenly, the ship's lights dimmed, engines throttling down. The stars outside distorted as the vessel exited hyperspace, not at a destination Jackson had chosen, but one the Scepter had directed. Through the main viewport, he witnessed an astonishing sight. A lone world adrift in space, encircled by a silent graveyard of debris, fragments of ships, defunct satellites, broken weapons, even shattered space stations. All frozen in orbit, a forgotten tomb. The Scepter's distinct voice echoed in his thoughts, naming this place Trinaxis. Once it had been a mighty bastion of the Ancient Ones, the very creators of the Scepter, eons before humanity first walked Earth. Now it was merely a desolate tomb, a haunting reminder of profound loss. Yet deep within its ruins lay something crucial, something he had to comprehend to survive the impending doom. As the ship landed, Jackson stepped onto the broken surface, his armored boots crunching on shattered metal and dust. The sky above was an empty black, and the planet felt utterly dead. Yet a faint hum vibrated beneath his feet, as if the ground itself remembered life. With each step, the Scepter guided him, not just physically, but as a silent compass within his mind, leading him down a cracked path toward the ruin's heart. The deeper he ventured, the more the oppressive silence pressed upon him. Soon he reached what appeared to be a colossal underground temple, crafted from dark, ancient stone and archaic metal, its walls etched with symbols that pulsed with a soft, ethereal blue light. The moment he approached, the massive doors swung open without a sound, and Jackson knew with chilling certainty that this place had been waiting. Not for anyone, but for him. This truth sent a cold shiver down his spine, even as the Scepter's power kept him warm and protected. Inside the temple, he found a vast chamber filled with strange, ancient machinery, towering statues of beings unlike any human or modern alien. In the very center, a raised pedestal held a round, glowing orb, spinning slowly, emitting waves of information too fast and alien for Jackson's mind to process. But the scepter intervened, slowing the data, allowing him to perceive the truth, piece by astonishing piece. He learned that his scepter was one of only 7 ever created, each linked to a singular warrior of the Ancient Ones. When those warriors fell in the cataclysmic final war, their scepters were scattered and hidden across the galaxy, sealed by complex codes and deadly traps. They were meant to remain dormant, never to be wielded again, unless the galaxy faced the same existential threat once more. Now, with the seal broken, it meant that ancient enemy had indeed returned. And Jackson, a human and impossible anomaly, had become the first new warrior in a war that had been silenced for 100,000 years. He also learned he wasn't alone. Secret societies had existed across the galaxy since the fall of the Ancient Ones, sworn to ensure the scepters remained hidden. Now that he had activated one, they would converge on him, not to aid but to destroy him before the burgeoning power within him could grow too formidable. As the orb projected faces, ships, and star charts, he realized some of these enemies were already close, hunting, closing in. And some were not strangers at all. They were the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful empires, their friendly facades hiding ancient fears. Just then, alarm screamed through his connection with the scepter. The temple trembled. Outside, ships had arrived. Sleek, black cruisers, unmarked and silent, glided through the ruins, their scans sweeping for life, ready to strike without warning. Jackson, no longer surprised, turned and walked back towards the surface, his pace calm. The scepter now glowed with faint lines of golden energy radiating an inner power. And for the very first time, he felt the scepter communicate not just with words, but with an overwhelming sense of purpose, flooding him with confidence, courage, and something indefinable, a profound destiny. He was no longer merely a man. He was the scepter's chosen. As he stepped out into the broken light, the enemy ships opened fire without hesitation. But their searing beams dissipated before impact, blocked by an invisible shield the scepter had instantly conjured. In one fluid motion, Jackson raised the scepter. The ground beneath the attacking ships fractured, metal warped, and with a force that defied all known physics, he crushed one of the cruisers into the dust with a mere sweep of his hand. The others scattered, attempting a desperate retreat too late. The scepter propelled Jackson skyward with lightning speed, and with a burst of golden energy he struck again, swift, clean, silent. When the smoke cleared, only falling debris remained, raining across the ruined planet. Hovering above the wreckage, drawing a deep, steady breath, Jackson heard the scepter's voice in his mind one last time. The first skirmish is won, but now countless eyes turn to you. And far, far away on a hidden planet cloaked by infernal fire, something truly ancient slowly opened its eyes after eons. It remembered the scepter. And it remembered war. The true war hadn't yet begun, but the galaxy was already trembling. The silence after Jackson's decisive strike was absolute, the stars above seeming to hold their breath as he hovered over the wreckage. His heart pounded, yet his mind remained calm, the scepter's presence a steady pulse guiding his thoughts. Though he had easily dismantled the alien ships, a chilling unease persisted. The victory felt too swift, too simple. Something vast, something far beyond the destroyed cruisers, lingered unseen. His ship's systems chimed, pulling Jackson's attention. A new signal pulsed on the screen, revealing information far deeper than anything the scepter had shown him before. It wasn't a distress beacon or random transmission, it was something profoundly ancient. The symbols materialized with stark clarity, as if they had waited for his comprehension. He recognized them, an old language, glimpsed in fragments the scepter had shared. This was a direct message from the Galactic archives, speaking of an enemy far more primordial, far more terrifying than any known empire. He began to decipher it, the scepter seamlessly translating the arcane data. This enemy wasn't merely an alien race, it was an ancient cosmic force that had once sought to extinguish all life in the galaxy. They had been sealed away by the Ancient Ones, the scepter's creators, eons ago. But that seal, now weakened, was breaking. They were returning. And Jackson, unknowingly, had activated the scepter at the precise moment of their resurgence. The message described a weapon capable of stopping this ancient foe, and that weapon was the scepter itself. But the truth was more complex. The message also revealed Jackson's true significance. He wasn't merely a warrior chosen by the scepter. He was the linchpin of the galaxy's survival, or its ultimate destruction. The scepter had chosen him because of a secret hidden within his very being, a truth even the Ancient Ones had never fully grasped. He wasn't just a human, he was the last descendant of the Ancient Ones themselves, their lineage dormant for centuries, utterly forgotten. The scepter, sensing this unique connection, had bonded with him to wield its power in this final, desperate war. Jackson grappled with the enormity of this revelation, what it meant for him, for humanity, for the entire galaxy. But one chilling certainty settled in his soul: he could no longer run. The battle was inevitable, and whether he was ready or not, the universe would compel him to face it. Suddenly, the calm within him shattered. A new voice, harsh, cold, and utterly alien, screamed through his mind, distinct from the scepter's soothing presence. It was the voice of the enemy. The message was brief, but cut to the bone. We know you have the scepter. You will die before you can wield its power. Jackson's resolve hardened. They had found him already. He had barely survived the initial assault, and now the true threat was here. The quiet whispers of distant space vanished, replaced by the deafening roar of an enemy force so ancient, so potent, that even the Ancient Ones had trembled before them. The voice intensified, filling his mind with horrifying visions of ships, weapons, and countless warriors, all united by a singular destructive purpose: to annihilate him and the scepter. The message wasn't just a threat, it was a dire warning. They were coming. A blinding flash erupted across the sky, and Jackson's eyes snapped to the horizon. A fleet of ships, unlike anything he had ever witnessed, materialized at the edge of space. They were colossal, their hulls crafted from a dark metallic material that shimmered with an unnatural pulsating glow in the faint starlight. Their engines throbbed with an eerie green luminescence, and as they drew nearer, the very air around Jackson seemed to thicken, the fabric of space itself warping under their immense presence. He could feel it, the oppressive pressure building, the crushing weight of approaching doom. The ships did not arrive alone. They were preceded by an invisible, overwhelming force, a pervasive presence that filled the entire quadrant, pressing against Jackson's mind. It was as if the very cosmos held its breath, observing, waiting for him to make the first move. The scepter hummed in response, shifting and adapting to the new threat. It had already begun to unlock deeper layers of its power, not merely shielding Jackson, but heightening his senses, sharpening his focus, and granting him an instinctual perception of the true, terrifying scale of the danger. Jackson gripped the control panel, his heart thundering in his chest. The enemy was here, and they would not repeat the previous mistake. He could see the gargantuan vessels, their weapon systems charging, ready to unleash untold destruction. His instincts ignited. Without conscious thought, he activated his ship's systems. The scepter responded instantly, cloaking the ship in an impenetrable energy field, deflecting the initial barrage from the enemy fleet. But it wasn't enough. The enemy ships pressed their advance, their weaponry shifting to more potent configurations, each volley making his ship shudder violently. Jackson knew he couldn't evade them forever. He had to engage. The scepter had granted him power, but he still grappled with how to control it, how to tap into its true, limitless potential. The raw force within him swelled, but it remained wild, untamed. Then the scepter spoke again, its mental voice more urgent, urging him to focus, to reach deeper, to draw from something profound. The key it conveyed wasn't solely in the scepter itself, it was in his blood. The scepter had recognized an inherent connection within him, a link to the Ancient Ones no one had known existed. This was his destiny. This was why he had been chosen. With a profound breath, Jackson surrendered, allowing the scepter's immense power to flood his entire being. He felt it then, a connection previously unknown, a link to the very fabric of the universe itself. He perceived the enemy ships now, their intricate movements, their hidden weaknesses. He knew precisely how to strike, how to outmaneuver them. The scepter flowed through him like a second skin, a living, breathing force that comprehended the battlefield with an innate understanding. He raised his hand, and with a singular, forceful thought, His ship moved, twisting and weaving through the chaotic space like a living entity. The enemy's weapons fired, but their blasts veered wildly, as if guided by the same invisible hand that now directed him. Jackson's ship surged forward, faster than the enemy could react. In one devastating, clean strike, he tore through the first colossal vessel, sending it spiraling into a maelstrom of destruction. The remaining ships scattered, a desperate, disorganized retreat, but it was too late. The Scepter had awakened something primal within him. The battle, for now, was his to command. Yet, even as the enemy ships disintegrated into dust, Jackson knew this was merely the prelude. The true battle, the one that would determine the galaxy's fate, had only just begun. And the ancient darkness, stirred from its long slumber, watched, waited. And this time it would not be so easily defeated. The war for Jackson Riley had just truly begun.